Hi guys, good morning. I hope you are able to hear me. Can anyone please confirm? Okay, perfect. So in the last session, we started talking about the Azure Storage platform. In the Azure Storage platform, we are having a PaaS services and IaaS services. And in PaaS services, we started talking about storage account. So this is important and this is important for us. We are going to use these two as part of this sessions. So when I zoom in into this particular area, so what we are going to have here is, what is the purpose of the storage account? If I talk specific to storage account. So by using storage account, we are going to store the data. We can store the data, like we can store structured data, rows and columns data. We can store semi-structured data, and we can store unstructured data also. So any kind of data that we can store inside the storage account. So storage account is a service. Azure storage account is a service where we can create two different types of accounts. One is blob account. It's not a block account, it's a blob account. One is a blob account, another is ADLS Gen 2 account. So I explained about even this point also. Blob account is used to store general purpose. This account is there for general purpose storage. I mean, if I wanted to keep the backup data, which is not going to process, I just wanted to keep for some reason. If at all, if I require, I can use it. Otherwise, I will throw it. So that kind of data we are going to keep in the blob account, which is a general storage, general purpose storage account. And the second setup account is ADLS Gen 2, which is specifically designed for big data processing. To accelerate the big data processing, we are going to use Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. And Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2, while creating Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2, we are just going to be one click away to convert from general purpose account to ADLS Gen 2 account. Just one click away. I'll show you that. So in both of the storages, we can have a blobs, we can have a tables, we can have a file shares, and we can have a quiz. Out of all these three, out of all these four, for us, for data engineers, this is very important. We are not going to use the tables. We are not going to use the file shares. We are not going to use the quiz. Okay, so blobs are the important. The blob is nothing but a file. If I have a data in the JSON file, I can keep the JSON file to process the data. If I have a data in a CSV file, I can keep the data in the form of CSV to process the data. If I have a data in a Parquet file to process the data, I can keep the data in the form of Parquet. And these three formats of the data is important for data engineers. Out of these three, this is very, very, very important. 80% of the times we are going to use Parquet only. Rest of the places we are going to have a JSON and CSV. So that much important it is. So Azure storage account, two types of accounts we can create by using this service. I wanted to say it is a service. The service is going to help us to create two different accounts. One is for general purpose, another is for big data processing. Now I wanted to set up Azure storage account. I wanted to create it. I wanted to store my data for processing. Your main goal is to process your data. As our data engineering, main role of data engineering is to process the data. So in order to process the data, we need to have a storage account. In real time, we are not going to create a storage accounts. We are not going to create any service. But here for practicing, we require to set up everything by ourselves. Otherwise, we cannot do the practice. So some administration activities also we are going to touch over the period of time. So throughout the course, we are going to have that kind of activities, which is specific to Azure data engineering related services. In the last session, we have seen how we can create a data factory. But now I wanted to know how we can create a Azure storage account. In order to know that, let's go and open the portal. We need to have an account, and even some debit cards also are allowing to create a subscription, and you can just try with a debit card also. Try with the debit card as well. I'm just going to say portal.azure.com to go into the portal. So I'm going to search the service from here. Here I'm able to say, but when you starting of your practice with your account, you cannot see the services. It will be empty place. So just search the service in this place. I wanted to search Azure storage account or storage account. You can see it. So storage accounts we can create. So storage accounts is a service. Let me hit on storage accounts. There are already few services are available. Ignore all of them. I wanted to create a storage for us. I wanted to create a storage for us. If you remember in the last session, we have seen while creating a service, we can create a resource group. While creating a service, while creating a ADLS Gen 2, we can create a resource group. While creating a service, we can create a resource group. So I wanted to keep a separate resource group for us. I wanted to create a separate resource group for us. Once our practice is done, just remove the resource group. Take it out so that we can reduce the cost if you are using a paid subscription. If it is a free trial, you don't need to remove whatever I'm saying, you just keep it as it is. We don't need to worry about it. They're not going to charge much more until unless you use very huge. So there are few services which are very dangerous. I'll talk about them. I'll trigger which service is going to get much more bill. But whatever I'm touching, whatever we are going to use the data factory, it will never give a charge until unless you use for some reasons, and I'll trigger it. You don't need to worry about it. Even if you see my billing, I'm using a paid subscription. My billing cycle was started on 13th of this month, and I'm explaining at least 2 hours, minimum 2 hours every day. I'm just taking a sessions presently. So daily 2 hours means you can say just 10 days. If you take a 10 days, 20 hours I spent. For 20 hours, I'm just getting this bill only. Okay. So whatever I'm going to touch, you can just keep it. Nothing, no need to worry about it. Nothing to worry. I'll trigger if there is any specific service or specific activities which are going to increase the bill for us. I have experienced while explaining the sessions in my career. So I'll take you through that. Let's go to, I'm there in the storage accounts. I wanted to create a storage account. That is our goal. Why? I need to store the data for processing. So in order to do that, plus create, I wanted to create a storage account. Subscription is required, that we know already. And resource group is required. I can use the existing resource groups. I can use the existing resource group. In the last session, I guess we created prod and test resource groups. In the last session, we created it. So let me keep this test resource group. I wanted to use this for you. Let's take a Bhaskar test. So inside the Bhaskar test, is there anything? Let me check first. Bhaskar test. I'm not having anything here. So I wanted to create all my services in the test going forward. Because dev I'm using for other batch, and I'm going to use Bhaskar test for you. Again, I'm going back to the storage accounts, plus create. My resource group is test resource group I'm taking. I needed some resource group, so I'm just taking it. If you want to create a separate one, you can create it. But every day we don't create it. Every day we don't create it. We're just going to create only one time. And storage account, I'm just going to say ADLS Gen2 storage. I'm just giving some account name. Now the storage account is available. I wanted to keep my all storage in the nearest location. So I'm just taking the default location, that is Central India for me, nearest location. And here, primary service we need to specify. Here, for what purpose we are going to take it. The storage account is not only for general storage, data, not only storing data for processing. There are people, they used to create a virtual machines, VMs. Okay, so VMs means it's like a system. So those kind of storages also we can keep it here in the same storage account only. Okay, so for VM operating system, disk spaces, all those things are required. So those are also available here. We can specify for what purpose we are keeping it. Azure Blob Storage or Azure Data Lake Storage Gen2. Azure Blob Storage or Azure Data Lake Storage Gen2. These two are the two different accounts. So Azure files, others, you just ignore them. And you just concentrate only these two options, and especially this one, this part. Because we are going to create for our purpose, our practice. If you are going to work as an administrator, you have to know about each and every piece in detail. We are not going to work as administrators of Azure. We are going to work as a data processing. Data engineers. Let's take the first option, Azure Blob Storage or Azure Data Lake Storage Gen2 account. That is the primary service for this account. And there is a standard and premium. And this is a general purpose V2 account, and premium recommended for scenarios that requires low latency. And these decisions also will be taken care by administrators. We don't need to spend a time about this. We just concentrate how we can create a storage account, because you have to learn about ADF. You have to learn about ADB. These are the main services. And redundancy, we are going to have a separate session for this redundancy for better understanding. For time being, we just take locally redundant storage, LRS. To reduce the cost, I used to take the LRS. If you directly go for review plus create, then it is a general purpose storage account, that is blob account. But if you want to convert as a Azure Data Lake Storage Gen2 account, in the next step, we have to check this checkbox. You can see it. Hierarchical namespace. How do you know that is a ADLS account, or how do you know that is a blob account? Is based on the hierarchical namespace. Based on the property called hierarchical namespace, we can say is that ADLS Gen 2 account or is that blob account. So what it is going to do is this particular hierarchical namespace is going to accelerate big data analytics workloads. If you're having a big data processing, if you have a massive volume of data to process, then store the data in the ADLS Gen 2. So how this ADLS Gen 2 is going to get is, if you check this checkbox, we need to enable hierarchical namespace. So if you enable it, you're going to get this property. This is going to accelerate your big data processing. Let me check this checkbox and just leave everything because we are not aware of all this stuff. These are all different options. So they may ask, what is the difference between blob storage account or ADLS Gen 2? You can say that ADLS Gen 2 is specifically designed for big data processing. While creating a storage account, we can make it as a ADLS Gen 2 by enabling hierarchical namespace property. That is more enough. And this is also purely related to administrators. And they will ask, did you use the ADLS Gen 2? Where did you store the data? From where did you read the data? All this kind of questions there is a chances to ask. And I'm just going to review plus create. And just keep in mind, there are three different types of access tiers are there. I'll come to this place again later. Let me hit on review plus create. And hit on create. Now the storage account is created. Let me go to resources. And this is the storage account. Just give me a minute, guys. So I just wanted to give one information. Guys, once you have done your payments, please make sure to get the access. So two types of access you need to get it. Like recording access. So recording access is the default access. Okay. So for this one, you have to share your Gmail account. Of course, for recording as well as for material. Material and sample data sets. So this two will be available. This two will be getting access by using Gmail account. Just share your Gmail account once you've done your payment so that you can get a access. So material is there and data sets are there. So these data sets are downloadable. You can download for practicing. It's a data. And I have a material. The material is going to be in the form of PDF. So this is going to be lifetime access and they're not going to be downloaded. So I'm just keeping the files in a device and you can see whatever we are discussing, I'm just keeping in the drive. You can just go through that. So this will be readable for lifetime. And the sample data sets, you can download it. Because you have to do the practice. For doing a practice, you need to have a data set in your system. So those files I'm going to keep in this place. And recording, you're going to get a access. All these things you will get once you share your email ID, all the details will get to your Gmail account. So recording access details will get to your Gmail account and your material access related details also you will get into the Gmail. So these things you have to make sure to get it. And let's come back to here. Yeah. So we created a storage account. Now, what we are going to do is, in order to store the data, I'm just going to talk specific to Azure data engineers. We don't need to know about administrator activities. We are not here to talk about administrator activities. Just keep in mind, whatever I'm talking, that is more and more enough before starting the data factory. Now let's come to here. I wanted to store the data. I wanted to store a file. If you wanted to store a file, store a file in ADLS Gen 2, then we need to create container in the ADLS Gen 2. We already created a storage account ADLS Gen 2. So after creating, if you want to store the data into this particular place, then we need to create a container. So what is this container? Container in ADLS Gen 2, or just leave it as it is. So container is a bucket. A container is a root directory. Okay, so when it comes to the storage account, we can say it is a root directory, but when you go to resource group, at the time of resource group, I told you it is a bucket where we can keep resources, related resources of big data engineering. So here I'm going to say container means it's a root directory. A root directory in storage account. For both of them, for blob and for ADLS Gen 2, for both of them, we're going to have it. Okay, so in order to store the blobs, file means blobs. In order to store the blobs into ADLS Gen 2, we required container. We need to create a container. So this is a root directory, and inside root directory, we can have our own directories. As per requirement. Okay, so in the future, we are going to see medallion architecture that is going to talk about bronze. So from bronze to, it will go to silver. From silver to, it will go gold. These three layers are going to be there. This is a directory. And this is also is a directory. This is also is a directory. Under what? Under this container, under the root directory. Under the root directory, we are going to have a directory called bronze directory. We are going to have a directory called silver directory. And we are going to have a directory called gold directory. These directories we are going to set up at the time of project we are going to see. But inside this branch, we are going to have a tables, not a files. Inside this silver, we are going to have a tables. Here also, we are going to have a tables. All these tables, we can call them as delta tables. They're going to ask, do you work with the delta tables? Did you work with the delta tables? They may ask, or do you have experience with the delta tables? When you're working as a Azure data engineer, 100% we are going to have it. There will be no doubt at all. Everyone has to work with the delta tables. And this table is different and this table is different. Keep in mind. Okay, so I'll give more details when we are going to talk about Azure Databricks. At the time of Azure Databricks, you will get to know about this medallion architecture and how exactly we are going to move the data from bronze to silver, silver to gold with data-driven pipelines and with metadata-driven notebooks. So data-driven pipelines, we used to call them, and data-driven notebooks. Everyone may know about the notebooks once you complete the course. But creating a data-driven notebooks is important. When you create a notebook, that should serve for other activities also. Okay, so if there is any common things, if there is a specific, then there will be no option. You have to go, but we need to make it data-driven. We have to drive it from outside. We can drive the pipelines from the outside, and we can drive the notebooks also from outside. We can control from the outside. So that is what we are going to see in the project. I will make you to do it. I'm going to explain, and I'm going to do I mean I'll make you to do it by yourself in the sessions. So because of that reason, I'm going to spend 20 days with the project. So if I do it, I'll take 10 days. And if I wanted to make you to do it, then definitely I need to have 10 more days. Okay, so everyone, we're going to do it. If we can do this project, it is like a real-time project. And you can feel you're going to have, you can easily feel that 3 to 5 years of Databricks experience itself, we can feel once you complete the project. So most of the people, they're just going to explain just a simple data, and they will move data directly without data driven, without controlling. They're going to have a bronze, silver, gold, but I'm sure they're not going to explain in this approach. This is important. So because of that reason, I'm going to spend that many days. Okay, so I'm going to show you how we can create a container now. The reason why I'm showing container is because we are going to work with that architecture. Let's go back to our storage account. You can see here containers. Hit on containers. I wanted to create a container by hitting on plus container. Hit on plus container. Here the name of the container I'm giving in a general naming standard here. General naming standard. The name of the container I always used to give data files. Data files, I'm just keeping it. Just give a data files and ignore all the stuff. It is not even, we don't think about it, as we are not going to be part of administrators. Enter this for practicing and hit on create. Let's go inside the data files. The data files is a container. The data files is a root directory. Inside root directory, you can create another directory. As many directories as you want, you can create it. There are three options are there to create a directory. As part of our sessions, we are going to see. One is by manual. By manually, we can create a directories. By ADF, we can create a directories. By ADB, we can create a data directories. As part of our sessions, we are going to see the first option, second option, and third option. So these two are very important for us. So in real time, 99% we are not going to create manually. Only root directory only are going to create manually. So once root directory is created, rest of the directories, whatever you need, you can create by data factory, you can create by a Databricks. If you go with ADF without coding, if you go with ADB with coding, we are going to see that. Now let's go with manually for setting up the environment. I'm just wanted to create a directory called input directory. I'm going to create a pipelines to read the data from the source to target. That is our aim. The ADF is going to do what? From source to target, it is going to bring the data. My source, I'm going to treat input, and my sink means target. My sink, I'm going to treat as output. So from input to output, I'm going to bring the data. From input to output, I wanted to bring the data. So to bring that, I'm going to create a one input directory and output directory. So throughout our data factory sessions, mostly I'm going to use input directory and output directory to make you understand. Even the similar kind of terminology I may use in the Databricks also. And let's enter the name of the directory is input. So I wanted to make a input directory. Let's save it. Now a folder inside a folder, a directory inside a directory I'm having now. Let's go inside the input directory and you can keep the files in this place. And I wanted to have a output directory inside that container. You can see here, you can move from one place to another place within the root directory. I wanted to add one more directory called output directory. Let's save it. Now, how many directories are there? How many folders are there inside root folder? Inside root folder, I have two folders or two directories, input and output. Now, I wanted to upload a file. What happens when you upload a file? What happens when you upload a file? There are a few things I wanted to talk, but those are all just for understanding purpose. I'm just going to talk. Otherwise, it's not required. So whenever you wanted to upload a file into the storage account, if you are going to do it manually, so manual chances is not even 5% in real time. This 5% also, if there is any testing is required for existed data, there is a chances to bring data from one account to another account or from one container to another container. So 95% that it is only in testing place, in testing phase or in development phase. But in the production, 100% is no chances. 100% is ADF has to take care, 100% is ADB has to take care. 100% is we have to make it automate. We are not supposed to go and hit, put our finger. We have to make it automate. We'll see. For practicing in the initial stage, I have to make you uploading data manually. At the time of project, we are going to make it automate. Let's upload. When I upload, we need to have a sample data. We need to have a sample data. And I'm just going to keep the sample data. Just give me a minute. I'll keep. For time being, let it be. So we need to identify where is your source. Where is your source? You need to identify. So once you know that, you can upload the file. It's very simple for practicing. We don't need to write any code. Even at the time of working, if required to upload, we don't need to write any code for this. But if you go for Hadoop, 100%, you have to do it. You have to write a commands. It's a different story. Let's browse the file, and where exactly your file is available, you have to take it. So I'm just taking a file called customer.csv. I'm just uploading customer.csv file. Now I'm taking this file for practicing, right? This file is going to be available in the sample data. That sample data set in the drive is there, right? I told you have to get the access. I'm going to keep this file in that particular place. You can download it. So whatever the file I'm going to take a reference, or whatever the data I'm going to use to show as part of the use case, that data is going to be available in the drive. You can download it for practicing. Let's open it. So once you open, you can hit on upload to upload the data. Just upload it. Now data is uploaded. What happens when you upload the file in general behind the scene? Why Hadoop was famous is because it is a distributed. It's a distributed ecosystem or distributed framework. So data is not going to sit in a single system. If I store the data in my system, in this PC, this is going to sit in a single system. But if the data is going to sit in a multiple systems, system 1, system 2, system 3, something like this. If data is sitting like this, you're just uploading only single file. But some data is sitting in this place, and some data is sitting in this place, some data is sitting in this place. That means your data is getting distributed. Because of that reason only that Hadoop was famous. Data distribution and data processing also was distributed. But the traditional systems before Hadoop, whatever the traditional systems were there, those systems are not capable enough to process parallelly. They are not capable enough to distribute the data. If there is no distribution of the data, there was no distribution of processing. The same kind of concept that we can see even in the Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2 also. So let me explain little diagrammatically so that you can understand how data is going to be distributed behind the scene. If it is a Hadoop, you have to set up it. But in a Databricks, I mean in Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2, every setup has taken care by Microsoft itself. Our job is just feed the data. Our job is just read the data. That's all. We don't need to care about configuration. Just for understanding, I'm just going to take you through this. You are a user or you're a developer. I wanted to feed the data. I have a customer.csv file. Let's say a developer. He's the developer. And I have a Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. So basically, we are going to have a cluster. Okay, so let me say this entire thing is the cluster. The cluster means collection of systems. Collection of systems or nodes. collection of systems or collection of nodes, we can say. That is a cluster. Now I'm having here how that is going to work internally. That is fine. I'm just going to say here in general. You can keep inside this, right? Okay, I'll keep this outbox later. I'm having here master node. So how we need to configure this master node? We don't need to worry. Everything will be automated by Microsoft itself. So we are going to have here slave nodes. This one I wanted to say node 1. I'm going to have a node 2, node 3. Same the way Hadoop is going to work, in the same way, even this one also is going to work. So there is a connectivity between these nodes. There is a connectivity between these nodes. Something like this we are going to have. Now my requirement is I wanted to upload my file. I wanted to upload my file. So the file name I'm just taking customer.csv. I wanted to upload my customer.csv file. To upload this file, the way we have seen, right? In the same way, I'm just going to upload. I don't care about how data was distributed. I don't care about how internal mechanism is working. As a data engineer, I should know how to bring the data into the ADLS. I should know how to read the data from the ADLS. That is my responsibility. And Microsoft is also saying you don't worry about internal mechanisms. Just bring the data to there. Just imagine my file size is 14 MB. My file size is 14 MB size. So when I upload 14 MB, this entire data will never sit in a single place. Will never sit in a single place. What it is going to do is the data is going to be distributed. Some data will come here, some data will come here, some data will come here. But how much data it is going to store? How can it decide that? I'm just going to upload the file again here. Let me take out this from here, re-upload the same file to avoid confusion. Upload, browse for files, customer file I'm just selecting. Let's open. The way you're going to upload the file in a Google Drive, in the same way you can upload a file in the ADLS Gen 2 also. While uploading, there is a advanced. In the advanced, you can say I have a blocks. That means when you upload the file is going to be divided into multiple blocks. The file is going to be divided into multiple blocks. Small chunks of the data is going to get. So this block size, you can decide. By default, there is a 4 MB, and if you want to increase, you can increase it. If you want to decrease, you can decrease it. Here is the option. The default block size, while creating an account, you can set up it. And I'm having a 4 MB here. What is my size of the file? My size of the file is 14 MB, but the block size is 4 MB. If you want to decrease the size, you can decrease. If you want to increase the size, you can increase. This all will be taken care by someone else. We are not going to be part of it. So here my intention is ADLS Gen 2 is a distributed file system. ADLS Gen 2 is a distributed file system. Now, in order to get this 14 MB, the 14 MB file divided into multiple blocks. The file is divided into multiple blocks. Block 1. Let's say I'm just going to say that block 1 means B1. B1 is going to have a 4 MB. And I'm going to have a B2 also, block 2. That is also is 4 MB. And block 3 is going to have again 4 MB. So total 12 MB now. Still 2 more MB is there. That is block 4. Block 4 is going to have a 2 MB. Is everyone with me? So we are going to have a 4 blocks as I'm having 14 MB. In real time, we are going to have a GBs of the data. Now, of course, data is not going to be in a single file. In multiple files also will be there. We'll see that later. Now this file is divided into multiple blocks. And block 1 will come to here. I'm going to have a block 1 here. And block 2 here. Any order that may go. Okay, I'm just taking like this. So you do not think that it will follow this in the same order. It may go at any point. And here I'm taking only 3 node cluster. In real time, we are going to have a much more. Okay, so, and we don't have any control on this. Depends on the size of the data. Microsoft will take care to store the data in the different nodes. We don't have any control on it. If it is a Hadoop, since it was a on-prem, we are going to have a control. And now I'm having block 1, block 2, block 3. Then block 4, where it is going to store. So do not think that we are going to have one more node and block 4 will store. No. So it is going to store somewhere. The block 4 may be in the same place, in this place also. Block 4. You can have like that. So block 1 I'm having here, and block 2 is available here. Block 3 is available in the node 3, and block 4 is available in the node 2. This may be any place. I'm just taking into this place. Here I'm having 4 MB. Here I'm having 6 MB total, and here I'm having 4 MB. Now, when you try to take the process to process the data, let's say, for example, there also I have a 3 nodes to process the data. So simple, when you have a 3 persons to process the data, instead of doing your work with single person, if you can do that work with the 3 persons, the time will be reduced. The time will be reduced, right? In the same way here also. The processing also is going to done by individually. Okay, in the previous systems before Hadoop, there was no distributed processing, there was no distributed storage also. So distributed processing, how we can do it? With ADF, we can do the distributed processing, and with ADB also we can do the distributed processing, and Hadoop also. Then what is the difference between them? Why people are coming out of it? It is slow. Performance is slow, and we need to write 100% as coding. Too many lines of the code you have to write it. That was the major drawbacks of the Hadoop. So these systems are going to be in-memory data processing. In the memory, data is going to be processed. So wherever the systems are processing in memory, that processing is very faster. But this Hadoop is disk-based processing. So because of that reason, this is 100 times faster than your Hadoop. Okay, so we are going to talk about all these details later. And here my main intention or my main motive is, when you load the data into the Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2, the file is going to be divided into multiple blocks. When you load the data, please keep in mind that will be recorded.
One quick question.
Yes, please.
When we try to retrieve, as the data is stored in the form of blocks, and it's split, it is saved whichever node, like node 1, node 2, node 3. So while retrieving the data, how do we know that the first block is stored in node 2 or node 3 or node 1?
Okay. Basically, there is a like master node we are having, right? So master node is going to take care about it. Let's say, for example, simple. If you take a medical store, we are going to have some idea about it when you're storing the medicines. You can feel this medicine is available in this particular place when you're, when we are going to work in that particular place. In the same way, internally it is going to take care. We are not going to, first of all, we cannot see how exactly it was stored, how exactly it is reading. So it's an internal mechanism. If it is a Hadoop, we can see where is block 1, where is block 2, where is block 3. But in the data factory, in the Azure or in the cloud storages, we don't have any control on it. You feel that you're reading data from single place, but internally the data was distributed.
And it gives the data in the form of sequence, how it is stored in the block.
In the single only. You don't feel that was divided.
Okay.
So we don't see the blocks. We only see the like
Data.
custom data.
Yes. We only see the data directly. Like if you see, let me upload. When I open this file, you can see all the data in a single file, single place. You feel that. So of course it was less than 4 MB, so it will be there in a single node. But if you have a much more size of the file, that is going to be distributed, but that you don't feel that I'm reading from multiple blocks. You feel I'm reading from a file. Okay?
Okay. Yes.
Because we are all end users. We don't know that. Even if they show the blockwise, we cannot understand. Okay, so system can understand that. So when you load the data into the ADLS, Gen 2, then a data will be divided into multiple blocks, and blocks will be distributed across cluster. Everything will be taken care. 1 minute, please. Taken care by Azure. Yeah, please go ahead.
One more quick question. So, so as we are going to upload the data, so we have, as you mentioned, sir, we have to mention how much size the block should be. So,
Yeah.
Like in that case, so how we'll understand like how many blocks are needed, because that doesn't make a difference as we are going to use it as a one file. So, in what way we need to think, and we have to mention the data should be divided in this many blocks.
No, we cannot decide.
Okay.
That is not our control. We cannot say there will be 14 MB only. You can say how much size you wanted to keep. So while creating the storage account, the solution architects will decide how much block size they wanted. Mostly they are going to keep the default, which is given by Microsoft.
Okay.
Okay. We don't have control on it. Only we can specify how much block size it is. But how many number of blocks is decided by the data. Okay. So once you upload the data, our job is just to upload. Only for understanding, my main is this is equivalent to HDFS. Hadoop distributed file system works in the same way. Basically, this was introduced first, and later ADLS came into picture. Amazon S3 bucket came into picture. Okay, so the way HDFS works in the same way ADLS also works, and Amazon S3 also works. Amazon S3 and Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2 are UI based, and HDFS is code based. That is the difference. But the mechanism is very much same. Okay, so in the next session, I'm going to talk about there are redundancies there. I'll talk about the redundancy, and in order to reduce the cost, even we are having a pricing tiers also. I'll give just brief about it, but they're not much more important for us. So mostly we are going to complete on ADLS Gen 2 on tomorrow. Okay, so tomorrow is Saturday, right? So first Saturday I'm not going to take a session, guys. So the next session I'm going to take on Monday. Okay. Any question before stopping? And make sure to set up the subscription. You need to know about all these navigations. So do not think that while creating a data factory will do practice. By the time you should be aware of all these navigations. Otherwise, it will be slowed down. Okay, then I'm stopping, and we'll see on Monday.